Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. Amma ba'd. In Sha Allah Azza wa Jal, today will be the final lesson from the Khawarij series. So if anyone has any questions, please make sure you write them down so you can ask at the end of the lesson, inshallah. SubhanAllah, I wasn't expecting, to be honest, to finish today, but a lot of what was left to speak about from the Khawarij was things that we purposely wanted to avoid, which were the specific things regarding to the Khawarij of old, specific matters regarding their iman, specific matters regarding their misunderstandings of certain matters, which aren't present in what we wanted to warn against today. The second type were talking about specific individuals and or groups nowadays, which there were many of, which maybe we'll touch up on a little bit, inshallah Azza wa Jal, but we won't get into too much detail regarding them. As we said at the beginning of the course, what we wanted to do was to understand, generally speaking, who the Khawarij are, what their danger is, what are their main traits, what should we be careful of, and what are signs that we can keep an eye out for to ensure that we don't, inshallah Azza wa Jal, fall into that fitna, and also what we can learn from them. And alhamdulillah, I believe that we've done that throughout the lessons that we've done. And today, inshallah Azza wa Jal, will just be a very quick summary of things that we've gone over and any additional points needed there, and then some advices moving forward, inshallah. From the summary, number one, the Khawarij are an extremist sect rooted at the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam through Abdullah Dhul Khawaisira, this man who was there amongst the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who showed his extremely rude nature and bad character in dealing with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And not only were his words harsh, but his words were wrong, where he told the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to be just, and he alluding to the fact that he believed he wasn't just, which is wrong, and it's from the signs of kufr, etc. Ayadun billah. And the Prophet ﷺ told us that from this person's progeny, from this person's lineage, not directly but mean from the followers of this person, those that will follow in his footsteps will be XYZ, as we know them today, being the Khawarij. They are extreme, as we mentioned, in the Islamic sense of the word. You have what people who aren't religious call extreme. This is not extremism. And if someone's not religious and he calls someone with a beard and wears niqab or doesn't listen to music or doesn't go to weddings, etc., those people that call those people extreme, like, we're not worried about someone who's not religious. What he says is extreme. We're talking about the Sharia term of extremism, where the person tries to understand the religion in an extreme manner, or he takes the religion to places where the religion does not intend to go. This is what we're talking about, extremism in and of the religion itself. Their extremism was them believing that they were on the haqq. They believed that they were on the haqq with Islamic text as an excuse, as a justification for their wrong and their misguidance. And this is something that we need to constantly remind ourselves of, that the Quran and Sunnah, having one ayah, having one hadith, is not a justification for the wrong that you are upon. The Quran and Sunnah is vast, it's wide, it's broad. And that is why it takes a alim, it takes a scholar who's well versed in the Islamic sciences to look through the Quran and look through the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ to understand how the companions of the Prophet ﷺ and the Salaf, rahmatullahi alayhim, how they understood these ayat, how they understood the hadith, in order for it to be applied and understood correctly. But if a person tries to use one ayah or one hadith as a justification, usually they'll come up with a lot of wrong. There is not one misguided sect except that they use something from the Quran or Sunnah. Doesn't matter what group or sect you want to go to. From the extreme of the extreme, like the Jahmiyyah, to those who we've mentioned previously, like Al-Jabariyah and Qadariyah. You want to come even closer, the Ash'ari, the Mu'tazila. You want to get even further again, you want to go to the Shia, the Rawafid. You want to get to people like the Khawarij. Doesn't matter which group it was, everyone uses something from the Quran or something from the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ as a justification for their wrong. So it's not just about a verse or a hadith that a person has, but rather about the greater understanding of the entire Quran and the entire Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ for you to come to that right conclusion. They were the most sincerest from the groups of innovation, and that's not a praise of them. And this is not a good point. We say, Wallah, mashallah, they're all very sincere and it helps. No. We say that they actually believe that they were upon the truth. And this is important for us because your feelings and emotions don't come into play when it comes to the truth. And we'll get to that inshallah in the advices. They believe that they were right. That doesn't make you right. Believing you're right does not make you right. And sometimes you will come across people of innovation who actually believe that they are upon the truth. And this is something for you not to be fooled by. No matter how convinced someone is of the wrong, it does not make them right. Their misguidance had a lot of negative consequences. From amongst the worst of them is making takfir on Muslims. Not only Muslims, some of the best of the Muslims. The best of Muslims that lived at their time. Beginning with Uthman and Ali radiallahu anhuma. These at their time were the two best Muslims on the face of the earth. And not only did they make takfir on them, but it led to them killing both of them. Even though their virtue was well known and established in Islam. Not only them, obviously scores of other Muslims were killed and or injured because of the Khawarij. And so when you have a wrong belief, there are consequences to wrong belief. And this is part of why bid'ah is so dangerous in Islam. Why innovations are so dangerous in Islam. Because it may start off as something so minute or so small, but then it leads to something major later on. As one person so beautifully described it, if you start off on a 1 degree angle right now, if you were to get a little scale and put a 1 degree angle now, the difference between point A and point B is so minute, so small. But travel, go over a distance, go 1 kilometer, and between point A and point B becomes extremely far. And then it gets further and further and further. So something may start off as something so small, but its danger lies later on. And so a person needs to understand, whilst a person may be sincere in his belief, he may think that he is correct. That doesn't make him correct. He may think that the wrong is so small now, but he doesn't know the danger of where it could lead to later on. Number 5 from the summary is that we mentioned a lot of their traits that came in the Quran and Sunnah, and we need to be aware of them so that we can stay away from them. A lot of these traits were bad in and of themselves, like ignorance, for example, or misplaced bravery, or the love of arguing. These things are bad in and of themselves. So a person needs to ensure that he doesn't have it. And if he sees people with it, then this is something that he ensures he has automatic red signals going off. Now, that this is a warning that this person may have the traits from the traits of the Khawarij. We said a person doesn't need to have all of the traits of the Khawarij to be a Khariji. And at the same time, a person doesn't become a Khariji for having one of the many traits that they have. A person could have a trait of nifaq, doesn't mean automatically he's a munafiq. If anyone gives me the ayn, it's a part of oppression. So if you like the coffee, say Allah mabarik. If you really want the coffee, please take it. Because we're on Facebook Live, and if it spills, it's going to be a problem. If a person has one of the traits from the traits of the Khawarij, it doesn't make him an automatic Khariji. Now, because it could be like jahl, it just could be a bad trait that a person has. Now, we said the 2 main traits of the Khawarij, the 2 biggest, most identifiable traits amongst other traits are, number 1, they're making takfir on things which are not kufr. Number 2, going against Islamic leadership. These are the 2 key traits. Now, then obviously you have things added onto that. These are the 2 main traits that differentiate the Khawarij from others. Tayyib. Some advices, and this is very important for us to say, okay, these lessons that we went through, the things that we learned, what do we take from it? What take home from these things? Number 1, this knowledge is religion. As the Salaf used to say, إِنَّ هَذَا الْعِلْمَ دِينٌ فَلْيَنْظُرْ أَحَدُكُمْ عَمَّنْ يَأْخُذْ دِينَهُ. This knowledge is religion. So let every one of you beware where he takes his religion from. You only take your knowledge from reliable sources. If you question, how do I know if someone's reliable or not? You need to look at who gave this person approval to teach. One of the saddest things of living in Australia is our lack of Islamic scholarship. This is something very sad. Where you don't have in every suburb, Allah mabarik, a alim. You don't have that, which is very sad. But alhamdulillah, you do have higher up mashayikh. And so if someone younger comes and wants to start teaching, or someone unknown comes and starts to teach, there should automatically be a question mark, especially in today's day and age. Who is this person? And who gave him approval? What do people know about him, etc. If you cannot have an understanding of who gave this person approval to teach, then that should be a reason for you to stay away. Not because he's bad, not because he's bad necessarily, not because the person is going to teach something which is misguidance. No, not at all. But for you to be safe. For you to be safe. As I say, it's being safe is better than being sorry. For you to say, Wallah, this guy, I like how he talks, I'm going to go to him. But you got no idea who he is. No idea where he took his knowledge from. No idea of his manhaj. No idea of how other people have dealt with him and what their experiences are with that person. Then you're putting yourself in grave danger. And this is why Aslan, the Salaf, became strict on this matter. Because at the time, originally, there was no need for you to know who the person's sheikh was. Because they knew this person, he studied this, he studied that, it was known. But then when bid'ah, when innovation started to become widespread, they had to start to question now, who is this person and what is he saying? And are his words going to be pushing and manipulating us for his agenda? And if someone has a particular bid'ah, when he mentions ayat of Quran or hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, he's going to twist it to fit what he wants it to mean. And that's why the ulama started to question, who is your shaykh? Who is your scholar that you learnt of? Sammu rijalakum. Tell us who your men are. This is when it started. And the same we say today. Make sure you know who the person is and who gave them tazkiyah. Who gave them that reference where, yes, you are allowed to teach. This was something very common in previous times, that a person was not allowed to preach until he took a reference of his teachers. When he studied with a while for them, and they believed, no, yes, he's on a level where he's able to teach, they would say, yes, you are now allowed to teach, tafaddal, go and teach. You are now allowed to give fatwa, go and give fatwa, no problem. But if a person wasn't given that tick of approval, he wasn't allowed to go. In Australia, on top of not having that Islamic scholarship, anyone can do whatever he wants. You want to open up your own markaz? No problem. As long as you have a little bit of money, you can. You want to buy a phone and a tripod and become super famous online, Allahumma barik, you can. It's very easy. You can say whatever you want. Who's going to hold you accountable? And this is something very, very, very sad and very problematic. So if a person is not given approval to teach, then you should stay away from that person. Or if you don't know who gave them the approval to teach, then you should stay away from that individual. Why? Because this is your religion that you're talking about. This is your religion that you're talking about. This is not something, wallah, simple to muck around with. Number two, one ayah or one hadith from the Prophet ﷺ does not necessitate the truth in that particular matter. If I want to prove a point and I bring you one ayah or one hadith, that doesn't mean that what I said is 100% truth. Of course, the ayah is 100% truth and the hadith is 100% truth. But the understanding that I'm trying to portray from that hadith or from that ayah, is it the correct understanding or not? That's not shown through one ayah or one hadith. I need to look at all of the ayat and all of the hadith and then come to the conclusion. This is the difference between a mujtahid and a muqallid. We'll see if there's anything. Inshallah doesn't come, ya Rabbi. The difference between a mujtahid and a muqallid. The muqallid, he's a follower. He's a alim, he does his ijtihad. The muqallid follows him. The mujtahid is the one that has the ability to look through the Islamic text. He knows Islamic sciences. He's able to extract the ruling. He knows, so he extracts the ruling. The muqallid follows the mujtahid. This is how it's worked in Islamic history. We haven't had an issue. Again, nowadays, and especially those with a problem with innovations and wanting to push a certain agenda, he doesn't follow ulama. He doesn't follow ulama. He's already got in his mind what he wants to prove. So what does he just need to add on top to give us some Islamic justification? He needs an ayah or a hadith. And this is the difference between Ahlul Bid'ah and Ahlul Sunnah. Memorize this statement. Ahlul Sunnah يستدلون ثم يعتقدون وأهل البدعة يعتقدون ثم يستدلون. The people of the Sunnah, they look through the Islamic text first, then they come up with a conclusion. As for the people of innovation, they come up with a conclusion, then they go looking for an Islamic text to back it up. Okay? If, for example, you go to the people of innovation and you say, Ammi, where do you get all of these philosophical ideas from? Yani, where did you get it from the Quran and Sunnah? They'll say things like, Allah says in the Quran, لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ. Mumtaz. Beautiful. Nothing's like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here, we agree. We say the same thing. How did you come to that conclusion? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ. How can you use your intellect, to say to them, how can you use your intellect to be a muhaymin almost, to be a guide for the understanding of the Quran and Sunnah? Why don't you let the Quran and Sunnah guide your mind, as opposed to you understanding the Quran and Sunnah according to your intellect? You say, Allah says in the Quran, أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ. Do you not ponder? Do you not think? Do you not understand? You say, Allahu Akbar. This verse, you extracted from it, changing Yadullah to mean power. Is that what you done? That's how you're telling me you got to that conclusion through that verse? Of course no, the answer is no. أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ should be, Habibi, you don't know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so you should believe Allah, what Allah told you about Himself. That should be أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ. But what they done is, they already came to the conclusion. They've already come to the conclusion that Allah does not have hands. So what did they do? Now we need some sort of Islamic justification. We found it here. Same thing with the Khawarij. The Khawarij, they came to the conclusion, this guy's a kafir. This guy's committed kufr. Okay, where can I find an evidence? Okay, boom, I found the evidence here. See, this verse shows that he's a kafir. Like the exercise we done last week. But there's other verses that show he's still a Muslim. Why didn't you take those verses over these verses? Or these ahadith, why didn't you apply them here? Why didn't you apply the rules of Islamic sciences for you to know? For example, in Usul al-Fiqh, Aam al-Khas, etc. Because they didn't want to. They already came to their conclusion. Now they just want Islamic justification for it. Go to any person from Ahl al-Bidah, you're going to find the exact same. Go to the Sufis, go to the Ash'ari, go to the Shia, go to anyone you want. Go to anyone you want, they're all going to follow the exact same manhaj. They've come to their conclusion, now they want Islamic justification. So you as a Sunni, when you say Sunni in this context, person from Ahl Sunnah al-Jama'ah, you need to understand, no. I don't just follow someone simply because he produced one verse. What's the refutation or what's the explanation for that verse? Sometimes you find people, they'll use verses that are abrogated. That ayah is finished. That ayah is finished, and there's a new ayah that came in, changed that ruling. But they'll use the old one because they don't know. Or they'll bring one hadith, and they'll think they are upon 100% haqq, and there's another hadith that goes directly against that hadith. It's not that the hadith are contradictory. It's that one was in the beginning of Islam, one was at the end of Islam. Or one was in a particular case, the other one was in a particular case. Or the two hadith are showing you that it's not haram, it's makruh. Or it's not fard, it's mustahab, etc. But because they don't understand usul al-fiqh, on top of them having jahl in the Quran and Sunnah, on top of them simply not following Ahl al-Dhikr as Allah commanded them to in the Quran, they don't understand these points and they just want to prove a point of their own. So as long as they fish and they catch anything, alhamdulillah, I caught a fish. I caught it, alhamdulillah, look, this is my evidence. And this is incorrect. Number 3, emotions are not a justification Islamically. Are you allowed to have emotions and feelings in Islam? Of course you are. Emotions and feelings are not a problem. Now, for example, if a young boy has the urge, he's seen a woman and he has the urge to do haram with her. He has the feeling to do haram with her. Is that a problem in and of itself? When does it become a problem? When he acts upon it. When he acts upon it. Now you've seen someone, he parked incorrectly. And you say, Wallah, I want to get out, I want to pop his tires. That's your feeling. You want to pop his tires. Is that feeling in and of itself haram? The feeling in and of itself is not haram. When does it become haram? When you act upon it. Now, so feelings and emotions are one thing. But when you act upon your feelings and emotions and the action was wrong, that's when it's a problem. That's when it's a problem. And this was one of the biggest issues of the Khawarij. Is that they were too hasty. They were too hasty. They thought something was wrong. They thought Ali's decision was wrong. So they went against Ali radiallahu anhu. Alright, Habibi, you thinking he's wrong. You thinking he made the wrong decision. That's not a problem. For you to disagree in a matter. It could be a fiqh difference. But what ended up happening? You acted upon it, which became a problem. Before Ali radiallahu anhu, with Amr ibn al-As. You didn't like Amr ibn al-As. You didn't like him, no problem. You don't have to like the leader. You don't have to like them. No one said that it's a condition for you as a Muslim to love the leader. You don't have to. You don't like him, you don't like him, no problem. But how do you act upon it? That's the question. Amr ibn al-As they had an issue with. Then Uthman they had an issue with. Remember with the nepotism, thinking that he's putting his own people in places and looking after his own family and tribe, etc. So they had an issue with that. Okay, no problem. You have an issue with that. The question is, how do you go about that? They went about things the wrong way. They let their emotions now dictate how they respond to a matter. That is not allowed Islamically. And as a Muslim, we need to be very, very, very controlling of our emotions. In this dunya, as a Muslim, if you don't have this trait, you're going to fall into a lot of problems. In the akhirah, if you don't have this trait, there's a potential you're going to fall into a lot of problems. How many people, because this is a bad, again, these are bad traits. Some of them in and of themselves, some of them with context. Not being able to control your emotions is a bad trait. How many people, because he couldn't control his emotions, he divorces his wife. He's angry, you're divorced. Shaykh, Allah, I didn't mean it. I was angry. I heard another Shaykh say, if you're angry, you're not divorced. And when do you divorce your wife, Habib? When you're happy with her? Of course you get divorced when you're angry. Now, even if you're angry, of course it counts. If you were in blind rage where you didn't know what you were saying or doing, different story. But if you knew exactly what you were saying, of course you divorced her because you were angry with Allah. Now, but he couldn't control his emotions. He fell into issues. Some people, they're emotional at work, they quit their job. Some people that do something stupid out of emotion on the street, they get a jail because of it. Point is, you have to control your emotions. In the hereafter, same thing. The Prophet ﷺ, he told us about a man, لا يتكلم بالكلمة, he will just mention a word. لا يلقي لها بالا. He won't pay attention to how bad the word is, من غضب الله, from the anger of Allah Azza wa Jalla urges him. يهوي به في نار جهنم. He falls down into the pits of the hellfire because of it. A word, just that he said, wallah, he wasn't paying attention. How bad it was, how not bad it was. Khalas, he said it. And this is a problem. Obviously, the opposite is true. Now, the opposite is also true, that a person will speak a word of good, he doesn't think much of it, but he praises Allah and he enters paradise because of it. Now, but this emotion, not being able to control your emotions, is a problem. When you do it out of a religious context, this is even worse. This is even worse. Because you think, oh yeah, I'm on the haqq. Right? No, wrong. Sometimes you see like some examples of this when it comes to, let's say, a sheikh or a khutbah. The other day, some of the brothers asked about in some, I don't know if it was in Palestine itself or some other areas, but the imam was speaking about, the khatib was speaking about a particular matter, and it wasn't about the Palestinian issue. And these brothers in the crowd, they got a little bit upset, so they started going off at the khatib. Like, why are you speaking about that? You should be speaking about this. Okay, your emotions is, why is the khatib speaking about that? You should be speaking about that. That's your emotion, no problem. Maybe you're 100% correct. Is it the right way to go about what you've done? That's the question. Now, the Khawarij had this issue where they allowed themselves to act upon their emotions in certain matters, and a lot of al-Shabaab have the same problem. You're going to find a lot of things that will upset you, especially in terms of fitna. If we look at, forget what's happening now in Palestine for a second, go back a few years to what was happening in Syria. This was something extremely upsetting. And for many people, it's very close to home. Because not only were people, if you were Lebanese, not only were a lot of people in Lebanon being affected with the refugees, etc., and a lot of people from Lebanon had gone over there, but then it was accessible. And now in Palestine, one of the issues is no one has any access. For you to get into Palestine is almost impossible. So a lot of people, they feel disheartened because they see what's going on, but they can't do anything physical about it. In Syria, the access was quite easy. Now, I don't know how easy it is. I heard from the amount of people that went in there, and on the news and stuff, that surely it couldn't have been that hard. Now, so over there, not only was it disheartening to see what Bashar al-Assad was doing to the people and the Iranians when they came, and then later on the Russians, etc. Not only was it hard, but people said, I can go do something about it. So a lot of people, they acted without understanding what they were getting themselves into. And a lot of people, when they got there, they regretted it. Not them wanting to go and help. That feeling is a good feeling. That's an honorable feeling. That's the feeling a Muslim should have for his Muslim brothers and sisters. No matter where they are or who they are around the world. You should have that feeling. But this is where your logic needs to come in, your rationale needs to come in, your iman needs to come in, your knowledge needs to come in. Where am I going? Who am I going with? Am I doing the right thing? Am I making it worse, etc.? You need to understand that. And a lot of the youth, this is why a lot of the Khawarij, they attract a lot of the youth. Because a lot of the youth, they don't want that. If there's a leader who's level-headed, and the youth are willing to do something, and that leader is not doing something straight away, they want to go against that leader. But they're like, no, we don't want to wait, we can't wait. This is happening, we need to go and help, we need to go do something. But this is where your iman, this is where your Islam needs to calm you down. And this is where your intellect needs to be bigger and your maturity needs to be more. Where you don't act out of impulse. You need to act with knowledge. You need to act with knowledge. Even if that means waiting a little bit. The Prophet ﷺ told us about times of fitna. And he would tell us the one who's standing, the one who's sitting is better than the one who's standing. The one who is walking is better than the one who is running. Meaning to the meaning of that hadith. Meaning that don't hasten to be in the fitna. Relax, calm down. You don't know exactly what's going on. You don't know exactly what's going on. If things look clear, they're not clear. Things are doing this, it's happening there. You think you're doing something good, it's backfiring on the Muslims, etc. So you need to be patient and not rush into things when it's in a time of fitna. As youth, part of this is to not come to, not as Muslims in general, but as youth especially, because we have this problem more than others, don't come to conclusions straight away. Relax. Relax when it comes to coming to conclusions. If you see something or you hear something, don't automatically assume the worst. We hear about husn al-dhan a lot. Have husn al-dhan, have husn al-dhan, have husn al-dhan. And wallahi, we should. A lot of people belittle husn al-dhan. Especially if someone is known to be someone good in the community or someone upright in the community. Be careful of thinking bad about them straight away. If someone's evil and someone's corrupt and a person, they've committed a bad act 100 times, and then you tell me, Shaykh, please don't tell me to have husn al-dhan about this person, he's just committed 101 times, I say maybe. Maybe. But when someone, mashallah, they're good, they're honorable, they're respectable, they're upright, their history is known, they do something which you question, don't automatically have sort of done that this person sold out, or this person done this, or this person's a hypocrite, or la. Don't come to a conclusion straight away. Relax until you know all the facts of the story. So many brothers have told me, they'll be speaking about a particular issue, and I'll be like, brother, the guy is not a bad guy. The guy is not a bad guy. He wouldn't do something like that for a bad reason. There must be a reason. Nah, Shaykh, he's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. After it happens, wallah, one of the brothers, his specific words were, Shaykh, wallah, I'm never going to speak bad about someone again. When he found out the reason of the person, wallah, he ate his words. Because in his mind, the reason X, Y, Z happened, he must have had bad intentions, he knew exactly what he was doing, etc. When he found out the reason, he said, wallah, how dare I speak against that person for what he was doing. Now, so a lot of people, they think very bad, they come to a conclusion and then they're wrong at the end of it. That's why you never, ever come to a conclusion until you know the facts. Especially when the person's history is known. For any of you intending, inshallah, to get into da'wah, the sisters are going to hate me for this one. Just because a sister calls you up crying does not mean her husband was bad. For any of you intending to get into da'wah, inshallah, a lot of brothers, especially if they're amateurs, if a sister calls, and sisters, usually they're emotional, and they cry. If they're upset, they cry. This is how sisters deal with their issues. So if they call up the Shaykh and she's crying, a lot of the Shaykh automatically think, beginner level, he might think, what, straight away? This husband, wallah, this guy's Fir'aun and Abu Jahl together in one. What a bad man this person is. And the whole time the sister was the one in the wrong. That's just me how to manipulate and to play. You just can't come, maybe she is right, but just don't come to a conclusion until you hear both sides of the story. Don't worry about the Khawarij for 1 second, let's speak about khula. I don't do with marriage and divorce issues, alhamdulillah. Give advice is not an issue, inshallah, but to see and to go through the whole process, very, 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 very rare. One of those rare occasions was for a very close friend of mine. And it was a very clear-cut case. I didn't have to go through the back and forth. She wanted khula, he was willing to give it, they just wanted someone to officiate it. Jazakumullah khair, it was like 12 o'clock at night, no problem, assalamu alaikum, bye. The next day I get a phone call. Khair, inshallah. I answer the phone call, the sister's crying. She's crying, she's telling me. I said, sister, what do you want me to do? She goes, I want you to give me khula. I go, I don't do this stuff. She goes, oh, but you done it for my friend last night. I said, yeah, but I explained the circumstances. And then she stopped crying out of nowhere. She stopped crying, she goes, well, then why am I speaking to you then? And I said, Allah yahdik. I said, Shubarif, I didn't give you my number for you to call me for khula. Allah maki. But the point is, she was crying and upset and blah, blah. And subhanAllah, I know her case because someone's asked me about her particular case. I know her and her husband. And I've told them 100 times they shouldn't be together in the first place. Anyways, they're crying and crying and crying. But as soon as I said, I don't do it khula, well, those tears stopped. Like, Allah, tap on, tap off. Why am I talking to you then? I'm on my way to Wollongong, I'm killing time, yeah. Allah Alam. You figure out why you're talking to me. And subhanAllah, some people, khalas, this is how they are. So you got to know not to come to a conclusion until you've heard the facts. Allah musta'an. Tayyib. When it comes to new matters, these are called nawazil. When it comes to new matters or important matters, we should not come to as layman conclusions. This is something that Allah told us in the Quran to take back to the leaders. Allah Azza wa told us, وَإِذَا جَاءَهُمْ أَمْرٌ مِنَ الْأَمْنِ أَوْ الْخَوْفِ أَذَاعُوا بِهِ وَلَوْ رَدُّوهُ إِلَى الرَّسُولِ وَإِلَى الْأُولِي الْأَمْرِ مِنْهُمْ لَعَلِمُهُ الَّذِينَ يَسْتَنبِطُونَ مِنْهُمْ. If a matter of goodness or bad comes to them, anything important or big news, they rush to share it. They rush to share it. And if only they took it back to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and those in authority amongst them, then the ones who know how to extract the rulings from amongst it would have been able to do so. The ones who know how to extract the rulings from amongst it, they would have known how to do so. And if it wasn't for the mercy and virtue of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala amongst you, then you would have followed the shaitan, except a very small number. And how many people nowadays this happens, especially because of social media? They see a post, they share it. True, not true, doesn't matter. True, not true, doesn't matter. Oh, Muhammad bin Salman approved this. I mean, he didn't do anything. Like the guy, if he's bad, no problem. There's no problem in saying he's bad and he doesn't want bad things. But at least make sure what he's saying is bad is true. Not, wallah, I got a screenshot from someone and now I'm going to share it. What was the latest one I was saying? It came out again, especially like in times like this, times of fitna. Mohammed bin Salman allows American or Israeli planes to take off and hit Gaza or something like that. Allah, if he does a billion things that are wrong, no problem. But when you oppress him in that one, now he's got evidence against you on the judgment. If he does wrong and you call him out for the wrong that he does, that's one thing. But then when you add, because you got a screenshot of a Twitter page you don't even follow, or you don't even know who that Twitter page is, for you to run with it, you can't. You can't just do that kind of stuff. Now, if something comes from good or from bad, verify it first. Verify it and then ask yourself, is it beneficial to share in the first place? How should we go about it in the first place? Speak to the people of knowledge on how you should go about these things. Otherwise, people fall into major matters of error. Major matters of error. And it becomes extremely problematic. Now, don't do that. This is a trait of the hypocrites at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. Because sometimes you can cause disheartenment to the Muslims. Sometimes you share things and it actually causes more harm for the Muslims. And it puts the morale of the Muslims down. But you shouldn't have done that. If a person says, oh Shaykh, but my intention is sincere. Again, go back to the beginning. Sincerity has nothing to do with it. The Khawarij were the most sincere group. Sincerity has nothing to do with it. It's the action. Is the action correct, yes or no? If it's correct, that's when your intention matters. If the action is wrong, then your intention doesn't matter. So don't go in, you just share things left and right. Make sure you ask the people of knowledge, what's the way that we should go about it? And then inshallah Azza wa Jal, if following their advice, you'll be, bidnillah Azza wa Jal, rightly guided in these matters. And the matter of respecting the ulama, wallahi, this is the big one. This is a massive one, which we've belittled today. Which we've really belittled today. This is something that is a must for a person to follow the ulama. And again, sometimes you get a question, Shaykh, which alim do we follow? This is almost a silly question. Almost a silly question. Because if you know a alim has clear misguidance, then of course, obviously you're not going to follow him. Obviously you're not going to follow him. Now, somewhere alim got 100 question marks on him. Obviously you're not going to follow him. But you have a general body of Muslim ulama from Ahl-Sunnah wal Jama'ah, a general body. And their words don't differ much from each other. You're following one of their hadith, that's beautiful. But then sometimes they say, oh Shaykh, which alim do we follow? Do we follow this alim or that alim? Sometimes they talk about Salafiyya. Shaykh, which Salafiyya do we follow? This is like a stupid statement. Like Salafiyya al-Madkhaliyya or Salafiyya al-Jihadiyya. It's like, brother, like, you know, avoid stupid extremes. When you say Salafiyya Jihadiyya, are you talking about takfiri? For example, is that what you mean? Do we follow takfiris? Obviously not. When you say, for example, Salafiyya Madkhaliyya, are you talking about, wallah, the walat umur, they can't do anything wrong and anyone who disagrees with us in one fatwa automatically is acting off the manhaj? Obviously not. You know what Salafiyya we're talking about. But what you're trying to do when people talk like that, again, is belittle the scholars. They're trying to belittle the scholars and come to their own conclusions following their own whims and desires. People know what ulama they should be following. If they can't figure that out, then maybe we'll book in a ruqyah session, inshallah. Number 5, and this is the final one, inshallah, is stay away from questionable individuals and places. This isn't even talking about misguided. It's talking about questionable people and individuals. Someone, like we said at the beginning, you don't know where he studied, who his mashaykh are, who gave him the tick of approval to study. This person is questionable. It doesn't have to be misguided. Misguided is worse. If you know someone's upon misguidance, you stay away from them altogether. If someone is questionable, also you stay away from. Why? As Shaykh Ahmed mentioned, Hafidhullah, wa baraka fi, after Salat al-Maghrib in his short reminder, he mentioned the fitna. And the fitna nowadays, they're harsh. The fitna nowadays are harsh and the hearts are weak. A person doesn't know how a fitna affects his heart. A person doesn't know how a fitna affects his heart. You may think yourself upright, strong, and this is why people, they get into problems. A lot of you would have heard of people that have drowned. They thought themselves safe or good swimmers. They get out, they get caught in a rip, the rip takes them, they don't know how to get out of it, they drown and die. Now, similar, very similar when it comes to fitna. A lot of people think, no, I'm safe, no, I'm alright, no, I can differentiate between right and wrong. They get involved in the middle with questionable individuals or questionable places, and then subhanAllah, the fitna overtakes them and they go. Be very, very, very careful. Be very careful. The advice of the ulama, the advice of the salaf, was to do what when it comes to people who are of innovation, or people that are questionable? It was to stay away from them. It was to stay away from them. If I have a place, if I have teachers, alhamdulillah, they're upright, they're upon the sunnah, they don't have any of these question marks around them or about them, and I can take and learn from them. Why would I go to another place for? Why would I go to another place? Why would I put myself on the firing line? You put yourself on the front line, let's say if I get shot or not. I'm going to go put myself in questionable places around questionable individuals and say, does the fitna affect me or not? This is incorrect. This is incorrect and it's not allowed Islamically. Save your religion from all types of fitna. Save your religion from all types of misguidance. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, the sunnah is clear. As the Prophet ﷺ said, تَرَكْتُكُمْ عَلَى الْمَحَجَّةِ الْبَيْضَاءِ, I left you upon the clear white plain. لَيْلُهَا كَنَهَارِهَا. There's no question about it. There's no confusion in it. It's night is like it's day. Everything is clear. Everything. لا يزيغ عنها إلا هالك. No one moves away from this path. No one becomes misguided of this path except someone who's wretched and destroyed. This is the only person who moves away from the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. How do we understand that sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ? Through the ulama. Al-ulama warathatul anbiya. As the Prophet ﷺ said, the scholars are the inheritors of the prophets. May Allah allow us to be from amongst those righteous, sincere ulama and to follow in their footsteps and keep us away from all types of misguidance. هذا والله أعلم. صلى الله عليه وسلم محمد وعلى آله محمد وصحبه أجمعين.